In the wonderful world of Twitter, on the twits that are on Twitter,
There's a lot of twits on Twitter.
there's a lot of twits on Twitter. There's a massive argument backwards and forwards, and I always see this in the gaming community on Twitter when I sort of lurk and watch them sort of build their teams. They're either on one end of the fence or the other. There's no one on the middle of the fence. It's not possible.
Yeah, it's
But the latest one is
only.
yeah, and the latest one is where people are very happy with Metroid Dread. When it first came out, everyone was singing its praises, but now people are starting to complete it. There's this whole kind of, oh my god, I can't believe how dare they release a game that's so short and have it for £50. And then you've got the other like defenders that are like, yeah, but you got to play it multiple times, and so I don't care, having £50 game and being done in 12 hours is ridiculous. And then you got other people, well, I don't want that Ubisoft kind of pointless dredging through the same old content that just take a game that should be done in 12 hours and make it 50 hours for no reason. Mm-hmm. So I thought me and John and the chat might talk today and sort of say, is there a limit on how long a game should be before you say, yeah, that's worth my money? Or is it best for a game to not overstay its welcome and get into that whole kind of collect 700 of this and travel and uncover the whole map? Does it really need to be a certain length for it to be £50? What's your thoughts, John?
Well,
here we go. Load them up.
A game needs to be as long as it needs to be. Some games are very short and they're absolutely fine, and they're self-contained, and you play it through, you finish it, and you're done. Other games are obviously designed because they want you to stay in the game for longer, whether that is for padding to make it seem bigger than usual, or if they make a big game world because they want you to then go on and buy microtransactions to see more of that world and to stay in that world for longer. There's plenty of reasons why people would want to make larger games, and certain genres work best in, with certain game lengths, don't they? Like an RPG where you're building a character, you want to keep that going for a very long time. But when it comes to actually, whether you're getting value for money for a standalone game that has a beginning and an end and it's over in a matter of however many hours, I think the only person that can truly answer that is the person that buys the game and or who is prepared to buy that game. So we know that this Metroid game, according to Vargas, and speaking to yourself as well today, Metroid is anything between sort of 8 and 12 hours, I understand. Is that right? The new Metroid Dread?
What I understand, that is about right. Feel about right, yeah.
And Vargas says that's quite long for a Metroidvania style game. Now, would I say, didn't realise my microphone was there, I'm already hitting it with my knee. Would you say that £50 is a lot of money for a 10-hour game? And I would say, if it's an excellent game, then I would say, yes, that's worth it. Sonic the Hedgehog and, old games, you could finish them in an hour, if not less, and we were paying the same sort of money for it then. So, yeah, it's just whatever you feel its own value is to yourself.
Yeah, and for the record, I agree with you, but it's interesting to see these kind of debates happen on Twitter, and there was a lot of people that said the same thing as what you said, but the counter argument to that, where people have said, oh, Mario and Sonic used to be 50 quid, and we think they're the best games of all time, yada, 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 is that they're going, well, games have evolved in the last 30, 40 years. Back then, that's as much as you can get out of a game. So, of course, they were going to be £50. But now we've got a lot further in gaming, and you can do a lot more with games. We can't expect them to release a game that is just the same length of what it was in the 90s and release it now and be acceptable. I don't entirely believe or agree with that notion, because I agree with you. I think a game should be as long as it should be. And more often than not, a game can overstay its welcome and actually turn into a bad game if it doesn't know when to end.
Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2. I'm looking at you right now. Oh my god, I love Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, the remake. It's incredible. I've been playing it pretty much an hour a day for the last 2 weeks because I'm just trying to get the last platinum trophy by reaching level 100. And the grind is horrific. There is no need for it to be this crazy. I've done everything there is to do in the game, and still I haven't reached the maximum level. So all I've got to do now is just replay stuff. And so that was padded gameplay, which I don't like.
that was the phrase that people are using, and thank you for that, padded gameplay. But it's like there's certain people, and there's nothing wrong with this, by the way. If this is how you want to play your games, power to you. But there's certain people that will treat games like a checklist, like you have yourself. You could have said, right, Tony Hawk's greatest game of all time. That little segment there, I've had enough. I'll move on to something else.
Mhm.
But because you want that check in that box, because you want that platinum trophy, or because you want to fill out all of those requirements that the game says, have you done this? Have you seen that? Have you done that? If you play a game that way, yes, you do get technically more value for money, but is it more enjoyable? And Metroids can be played multitude of ways, but it doesn't have in the game collect all the missile tanks and you'll get a trophy. It doesn't do that. So it's not a requirement, but you can do that. There is a counter that says get 100% items, but because it's not a requirement for you to finish the game, or because there's no trophy there to instigate it, a lot of people are going, "Oh my god, I've done it in like 12 hours. There's nothing to do." But then there's Metroid also started speed runs, and like you have with Sonic, and like I have as well. You can play
Well, yeah,
a
it's
40.
another way. It's another way to enjoy short games, isn't it? Is to speedrun
Absolutely.
stuff.
Yeah, try and do it faster. Try and get more of the items, that kind of thing.
I mean, the other thing is, not everyone has the time to play a massive 100-hour, evolving world RPG that goes on forever and has no end. Some people, literally have an hour a week or whatever to enjoy their hobby. And so those types of games, open world, massive Ubisoft-a-thons, they don't appeal to everyone in the same way. And so sometimes all you do want is like a nice short arcade style game, or a short story based game, or something like that. But when it comes to how much you charge for that game, it really comes down to, again, what you believe is worthwhile to you. Like if I knew that there was, well, to give an example, Sonic Mania obviously came out a couple of years ago. It wasn't a 50 quid title, granted. Even if I did spend 80 quid on the stupid Sonic statue that I've got over there. But anyway, but the game itself, I think it was still like 30 or 35 quid. But again, it's a game that you can finish in less than an hour. And I didn't hear anyone complain about how short it was at all. Everyone just raved about it.
I think that's the funny thing, though, isn't it? Is because, and this is the strange thing about Metroid as a franchise. You don't even get this with. Well, I suppose you would get it with Zelda. If they did a Zelda that you could do in 12 hours, there would probably be just as many complaints. And I think what it is that games like Metroid, who give off that kind of more adult Nintendo style, because it's more serious. It's not. I mean, it's not no Call of Duty man with army gun, but it's still
Man
kind
with
of
army gun.
yeah. It's still kind of aimed at a. Oh, thank you for following.
Thank you for following, Minigame Man. Awesome. Thank you.
We're getting close to 800 now, John.
It's getting there. I reckon that's going to happen in the next 10 days. We'll get to 800. Thank you.
Because it's more of an adult kind of franchise, or kind of gives that vibe, a lot of people expect it to have this kind of level. Whereas with Sonic the Hedgehog, you kind of think, oh, it's a kid's game, is the general consensus by those same people. So they like, well, I won't expect it to be any longer. It's like if they made a Kirby game that went on for 150 hours, people would start to go, what? Huh?
That would be horrific.
Yeah, but going back to what we were saying, is like, is there a point where you would say, okay, I've paid £50 for this game and I've done it in an hour? You would be quite annoyed, wouldn't you?
It depends how good that hour was.
If you pay 50 quid, let's say you pay 50 quid for Limbo.
Yeah, I wouldn't pay 50 quid for Limbo. I'd probably, for Limbo, I'd pay 20 quid for Limbo. Limbo was brilliant. I loved it.
I like Limbo.
I think it was cheaper than 20 quid as well, and it went free on a lot of places as well.
Yeah,
that and Braid and all those, decent indie
It's
titles.
a 2D kind of puzzle adventure, very similar to Metroid in its essence, and that's, I guess, what these people are saying. They're looking at that and going, well, first of all, it's not a 3D adventure, because as soon as you take the third dimension out of it, it immediately has to drop 20 quid. Because that's apparently what you do.
That's actually quite true, Bill, isn't it? It is actually quite true.
Yeah, as soon as you lose the third dimension, that's not a proper game. That's got to lose money off the value. Doesn't matter how much effort went into making that game, or how big the team was, and all the other things. But as soon as it's 2D, oh nah, son, that's not worth 50 quid. It's weird how that happens.
On the other end of the spectrum, talking about bigger games, um, something like, say, and I know it's a bit of an obvious, boring one, but Skyrim. I love Skyrim for all of its faults and flaws and things that other games do better and all that kind of stuff. I know it's got crap combat, blah blah blah. But Skyrim, I got a good 150 hours plus out of that, and it was absolutely outstanding. Absolutely loved it, and I have rebought it a couple of times because I'm a mug, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. And even though it's now on Game Pass for free and it's really cheap everywhere and this, that, and the other, if they said Elder Scrolls 6, whenever it comes out, whether it's not even going to be next year, is it? It's probably 2024, 2025 that we might see Elder Scrolls 6. If they came out and they said this game is going to be £200 for the standard edition, I would still pay that. I don't know if that sounds ridiculous, but
No, I mean, if you love,
if just assuming that I have a spare 200 quid at the time, obviously, but I would be prepared to spend £200 on a game that is that enjoyable to me for that amount of time. I think it's different to everyone. Everyone's got their own personal scale, but I'd pay a lot of money for a big game, and I would quite happily pay £50 for a game that I can do in a few hours. But then, would I then sell it afterwards? I don't know. Maybe I would.
Yeah, well, I mean, it comes down to what you enjoy. I had this conversation often with people in game, and I think you even had the same conversation yourself from time to time, where people go and try and understand that money to enjoyment ratio. Where always people come in. I won't buy anything else but Assassin's Creed and Grand Theft Auto because I want to make sure my £50 goes a long way.
Yeah, that's another thing. GTA 6, I'll pay 200 quid for GTA 6. I don't care. Assuming I had 200 quid.
For me, those games just feel like busy work. And for every that one game does loads of other genres. Really, it's more variety over quality in a lot of chances. I know it's not necessarily fair, and I'm happy to get into the nitty gritty at some point, but maybe not today. But if I want, for example, the golf game, I heard is really funny in GTA because someone might come in and the golf cart shoot you, and then you have a different adventure going on. Fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
But if I wanted to play a golf game, I would buy an actual golf game, and it would be 100 times better because it's specialist at golf. If I wanted to play a racing game, again, it's specially designed to be at that. But like you say, if you put 50 quid down, you'll spend like 250 hours on a game. That's a huge value for money.
Pound an hour, yeah, easy.
Just do it again. If you spend £250 on a game that you already had, and you spend another 250 hours on it, why not?
Yeah,
and
if you're going to buy DLC, or if you're going to do, if you are a fan of, the additional content like microtransactions, for example, Jack with Destiny, he's spent hundreds on Destiny, but if that's what he enjoys and what he wants to spend his money on, then go for it.
Yeah.
But there are plenty of bad games where they are a waste of money as well.
Well, FIFA, I think, is a terrible money.
To be fair, though, as much as I would moan about how FIFA is just a cheap knockoff update, which they do every year, because they do literally make the new FIFA game in 6 weeks. It's literally all they do. It's a 6-week turnaround, and they make literally billions from it. But at the same time, as a sports fan, I would buy the F1 game every year, knowing that it's exactly the same, literally for the stupid thing where someone has spent a week changing the names and the colours of the cars. So I can appreciate that, but it's hard to get out of that mindset of I'm literally buying the same thing twice.
It took me 10 years to get out of the routine of buying wrestling games, because in the 90s I used to like No Mercy and all those big wrestling games. They were massive. There was no bigger game on the shelf than wrestling games in the late 90s. But at a turn of, I think around about 2004 maybe, they all started going gradually worse. Features started disappearing, story mode started getting worse, but I kept buying them. And I was buying a worse game every year because wrestling games are what I enjoyed and I look forward to playing them.
Being a Sonic fan, Bill.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe. That's it. Trigger everybody off, John. Go on.
Just move on. Just move on.
Yeah. But I mean, I get it. I understand it. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think if your expectations of a genre that you may not have been you've played before, because I think Metroid Dread, for whatever reason, got a lot of eyes on the franchise for the first time in a long time. Maybe because of how surprising it was where it came out of. But it's a genre that a lot of people were not really understanding what they were getting into.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a few conversations I've had with people where I go, okay, so you completed it that quickly. Did you do X, Y, Z? And they went, no. And I said, that's kind of what this genre leads to. It's like playing FIFA and doing, I don't know, one season or maybe just a few games. You're basically saying FIFA ends as soon as I finish my first 90-minute game. It doesn't really work that
the game
way.
is the same after that. Yeah, that's what you
yeah,
mean.
or buying Street Fighter and going through the story mode with Ryu or Ryu. I've got to get the name right, John. Otherwise, people tell me off.
It's only been 30 years, mate. Don't worry.
I know, yeah, bad habits. But yeah, going through the story mode and completing it with one character, that's not really the point of that genre. And, you know, if you play fighting games like me, 50 quid is a steal. But if you play it and you just want to do the story, 50 quid is a rip-off, you know?
Well, that's the thing, though. When it comes to fighting games, the business model for fighting games is very different now, isn't it? You get your bare bones game for 50 quid, and then every character on top is another 5, 6, 7, 8 pounds on top. But if you're the kind of if you are a fan of fighting games, the amount that you would play that game, you would absolutely get value for money out of that, for sure.
Yeah. But in closing, then, I think you've answered the question for me, John, and I appreciate
it. Thank you very much, Bill.
I don't think you even realised you did answer the question, so I'll just reiterate.
Hooray!
But I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think the answer to this question is it depends on the genre, and although that may or may not be fair, if people are complaining about certain genres not being over and done with too quickly because it's too expensive, then you've got two caveats or two knock-on effects from that. First of all, that means anybody makes a Metroid game, it's got to be at least 20 hours, otherwise people won't be happy, regardless of whether that's good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
And a good game that's worth 50 quid has to spend 50 hours of constant busy work to be good. But it also means that if you treat every genre with the same mentality, some genres may disappear rather than you support them the same way as you would your Call of Duties, your Assassin's Creed, and everything else. Because then people just go, I just won't make them then, because I might as well make another Assassin's Creed game rather than make a Metroid game.
A point that I'd like to make, actually. Sometimes I have wanted to play a game more, but I've enjoyed my first playthrough of this game so much that I don't want to play it again.
Is that Shadow of the Colossus?
Not specifically, actually, no. It was actually, it's been a few of them, but to give an example, the first Last of Us game, I played through it, 20 hours, finished it, absolutely stonking game, amazing, brilliant, probably one of the best games I've ever played.
Isn't that game brilliantly sort of, it just cashes out as you begin to lose interest, I found. Just in the gameplay, not necessarily the story, but if it carried on for another hour, you would have probably been fed up of crafting and shooting and everything else.
That's the thing. I knew that if I got to the end of The Last of Us, and I thought, right, that was a profoundly incredible 20-hour gaming experience, and that's going to be a long time before anything tops that. You know, Naughty Dog, their masters, this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. But then I looked at my trophy list, and I literally had like 2 trophies out of the entire game. And I thought, wow, I really want to play through this again now and unlock some stuff. But I thought to myself, no, if I play through it again, it's not going to be that same experience, because there's going to be there's not going to be surprises in there. So I deliberately, even though I probably could have quite easily played through it another 3 or 4 times and gone trophy hunting, I wanted to preserve that perfect experience that I had of that first playthrough and just never touch it again. And I didn't. Until it re-released on PS4, and then I played through it again. But again, just once. What was in your special Metroid that you got, Bill, this week? You got the big, nice... I mean, not saying I don't like collector's editions, because I am quite jealous when I unboxed your Metroid and thought, I don't really want to put this in the post to you. I might tell you that it just didn't come. What did
is that right?
I thought about it. What did you get in the box with your game because it was what, £30 more than the standard copy of the game? What did you get for your £30?
You get the Steelbook, which a lot of people do Steelbooks, and I've never liked them because I think Steelbooks. they never look as good as the originals, and I never use them, and they're always awkward and they fall apart. So yeah, there's a steel book in there. You also got the best thing was the art book. Now I love art books anyway. That's the kind of
Is
things
it
that attract
A4
people.
art book, or how big is it?
I'll get it. I'll get it.
Oh, show and tell. Look at his chair.
So the reason it's so massive is that that's the size of the art book.
Okay, so an art book would be about a tenner.
Yeah, it's a hardback. So, but do you know what's really bad about this? And I have to be careful because I'm kind of paranoid taking it out. They've put this really rubbish plastic cover around the outside of the box, right?
Yeah, it literally came. It was delivered to me open at the top. I totally didn't look into the box at all, Bill.
Oh no, that's not the problem. The problem is I have to be absolutely really careful taking it out because the rubbish plastic cover is so sharp because it's got these really terrible. I don't know if a camera will pick it up, but they've got these really terrible hinges. Can you see that?
Yes.
Right, where the plastic is literally a flap, but it completely destroys the box. So when you're taking it out, it kind of scratches the box as it's coming out. It's just terrible. But yeah, lovely box. Oh yeah, these art cards, which I can tell you are not that expensive.
Postcards. Wow, they look valuable.
They're the front covers from the
They
previous.
look quite neat, actually. To be fair,
they're all right, but I know for a fact they're not really that expensive. But it was the art book that attracted me the most. So what was it you wanted to go on about?
No, just my point was generally like the big box collector's editions. You pay for the fact that they are collector's editions. The content isn't often worth exactly what it is. For example, if I can show it, my whatever it is, you can see my Final Fantasy figures down there. The big black box that those figures are on is my I can't remember what it's called. That's how much that's how worthwhile it was. The big Final Fantasy VII Remake edition that came with Cloud on his bike and everything. Was it a Soldier edition? I don't know. Either way, it cost, oh crikey, what was it, like £170 or something? And the figure, it's like I've paid over 110, first class edition. Thank you, Kizra. But I've basically paid like 120 quid for this plastic motorbike, which I will just point out, the motorbike on the top is actually the original one from 1997. The other one I've never even taken out of the box. So what a waste of money that was. But I bought it because Final Fantasy VII is my favourite game and I wanted to have the best version.
Do you know what, John?
And I feel such a sucker for it.
Do you know what?
What, Bill?
Just realised you've got the original one there, haven't you?
Yeah.
And you've got the latest one.
Yeah.
I've got the one from Advent Children with Cloud on his bike.
Have you?
So we've got all three. Yeah, we've got the whole set.
See, now I hate myself because I want to buy it off you.
I've never taken it out of the box either. It's actually still in the box. It's sitting down there. And it only cost me 35 quid from Felixstowe.
Oh, what? Oh.
And it's massive. It's huge.
Right, we're going to have to work out some sort of a deal once we go off air, Bill. Emily says Final Fantasy VII figures are heinously extortionate. Yeah, they are actually. They've just revealed the new Aerith figure, the one in her new red dress from the game.
Oh yeah, I've seen
it's
that.
like 130 quid. It's crazy.
Yeah, but the level of detail on it kind of does scream.
Kizra corrects me that it was actually £250 for that special edition FF7. Oh dear, not 170. Oh.
Well, here's a question for you then, John. Kind of on the spear of the moment one, to base,
spear of the moment.
Spear of the moment. Is that the phrase? I don't know.
Yes, Bill, that's exactly the phrase.
Great stuff. I'm going to use it from now on. What is a good addition to a collector's edition? What would you say should go in a collector's edition to make it good?
Statues.
You like statues, do you?
It's physical stuff. It has to be physical stuff, at least these days, because no one cares about a DLC code in a box. That's not a special edition, is it? That's the full game, and you get a lesser version for the standard price.
The problem with the statues is that you end up like me over there, and you've got to have a dedicated room to display them all.
I nicked my shelf for my X1 games because I ran out of space.
I say problem, but I love my room. But it's you get to the point where you're like, where do I put everything? But I tell you, the one thing I wish they did more of was soundtracks.
Ah, yes, yeah.
They never do it soundtracks.
And generally, when you get soundtracks, they'll be digital, won't they, as well?
Yeah, or
Um,
samples that have maybe 5 tracks out of like a 25. I mean, can you imagine Final Fantasy as a collector's edition? What do you expect to see? Maybe you say a figure, but what's Final Fantasy known for more than anything else? Music.
it did actually come with the soundtrack.
Oh, that's all right then. Did it come with the whole thing though?
No, it was a limited soundtrack. If you wanted the real soundtrack, it was £777.77
Oh,
for the
God.
collector's edition soundtrack for Final Fantasy.
Wow.
Squid Dude says yes, soundtrack. Fanat would like to see a mousepad or a screen cleaner. Are you joking? Yeah, Fanat's joking.
A mouse
Emily
pad.
likes to get an art book with concept designs.
Yeah, art book's good.
Yeah, great minds think alike, says Squid Dude to you, Bill.
I quite like sometimes like a comic book to tell you like the prequel story or some background stuff if it's like that kind of game, like what happened before you got there, or like I'll try and relate it to you, John, and this might be a stretch. That character in Skyrim, that was it Skyrim, or I can't remember if it might have been the one before it, where Jean-Luc Picard played.
Oblivion,
Not John,
yeah.
yeah, he sort of, spoilers for a 500-year-old game. He dies in like the opening scene, doesn't he?
Yeah.
It's like, how did he get there? What's his story? Is it interesting? All that kind of stuff. That could have been in like a paragraph in a book somewhere in a collector's edition, but that kind of stuff. I always thought that would be quite cool.
Yeah, I'd quite like. Talking of Captain Picard, William Shatner went to space this week, didn't he?
He did.
He did. I don't really have much to say about that, but
I don't have too much to add, to be honest.
it's cool.
There's plenty of good videos about it online, though. Plenty of good meme videos.
Oh yes, Emily would like to get hardware with collector's editions. Smash Bros did that, didn't it? It came with a GameCube controller for special edition.
Yeah, you got the
adapter, cool, isn't it?
And a GameCube pad.
Jamie's here. Says, first thing I heard when what's Final Fantasy best known for, my instant answer was battle theme. I'm with you, Jamie. I hear you.
Music. Definitely music.
Sadly, they brought William Shatner back. Okay. Amiibos. Amiibos were cool to get in special editions, but full soundtracks are what they really want. Yeah, vinyls.
Yeah, I mean these kind of things were always quite cool when you got like collector's editions with the amiibos in. But I think
this is turning into show and tell with Bill, isn't it, tonight?
Well, that's only because I had it to hand. But I think the obvious answer is the reason they don't do it is because they learn, and their businesses first and foremost, that if they put it in a collector's edition, they kind of have to sell it at a discount. Whereas if they do all the bits separately, they can do it at a premium. Yeah. So yeah, like you found with Final Fantasy, they do a sample soundtrack, and they went, "Oh, I'm missing all these tracks," and they go, "Oh well, yeah, but you got the big one that's
we got the real one coming out now at the real price."
ridiculous. But yeah, I wish they did more. Or I kind of like posters, as I've seen as well.
Yeah, I mean, my collection. I just opened a gaming cafe. That's what I did to work out my storage solutions. I literally went and rented a commercial premises. So Switch Online at the moment is $21.99, I believe, for a year.
Yeah.
I might be like £1 out there.
It fluctuates. I think I got mine for $17.99 when it was in offer or something.
So yeah, so it's about $21.99 for a year, and with that you get online play on your Switch, which, as we know, can't go for more than half an hour without getting a disconnect, as we see. Oh, $17.99 for now. Oh wow, well that's not too bad.
That's what I got it for. Okay. That's what I got it for.
Well, I stand corrected then. $17.99 gets you a year of online membership that disconnects every half an hour if you're playing Mario Kart. And gives you like your cloud data and all that kind of stuff. But you get the NES games and you get the SNES games as well, which is quite cool. However, they have announced the Switch Online Expansion Pass today, which is the bargain price of $34.99 for a year. And it gives you, obviously, the same stuff, but on top of that, you get your N64 games and you get the Sega Mega Drive games. I've got a list of all of these games here. So obviously they're going to add more games to it, but you're effectively paying twice the price for your Nintendo Online membership to get a bunch of old N64 games and a bunch of Mega Drive games that have been on the Mega Drive collection for many, many years. And generally people think it's not very good value for money. What do you think, Bill?
I have to tend to agree that I was actually quite shocked myself when they thought that was, something that they would do without having some sort of backlash.
If you haven't played those games before, if you're a younger player and you haven't yet experienced Sega Classic stuff or the N64 stuff, then that extra 17, 80 quid might be a good deal for you.
I think that's a key point you've nailed there. We're looking at it from a old man's point of view, where we've seen these collections come out multiple times. These games have been here forever and ever, but the Switch isn't just that. It's a multi-age platform where people of all ages, from very young, might be seeing Sonic the Hedgehog on the Mega Drive for the first time. And this might be their access to it, especially if they get a family pass, and it's just an extra bonus game to it.
But then parents will like to show their kids those classic games. And not every parent in the world is a full-time gamer who still has all of their old things. Some people grow up when they have kids and don't have it all. But yeah, you're right. There's, so it's nice. And Emily makes the point that it is an optional expansion as well for these games. And you do have to think that, and while there's not a lot of games there at the moment, that is obviously going to increase. And so a year from now, there could be twice as many games available, and then it does become much better value for money.
It's a key point to mention that.
Thank you.
For us, we could look at it and go, well, you could get the Mega Drive collection on X, or you can get it on Y, but they are making it more readily available, and I wish that more games did that from the past. For someone in the know, it seems a bit pointless, but for somebody who doesn't, having these games available to as many people as possible doesn't segregate them off. The N64 library is probably the most updated or represented console in Nintendo's history.
It's one of the hardest consoles to enjoy today as well, though, isn't it? Because they haven't been re-released in their original format, with the exception of like Mario 64 that's come out on 3DS. It's come out on original DS, wasn't it? And a few things. Oh, we're getting bits cheered and everything. Oh, that's all lovely. Thank you, guys. But if you plug an N64 into a modern TV, it's barely playable, isn't it? And people are crying out for it's much more. The N-Gage library needs to be revisited. Dude, it doesn't. I had one of those, and I can tell you it was no good.
I'm all for preservation of games and not making things obscure. There's so many things. I mean, they're not necessarily all good games, and that's fine. That's up to people to decide whether it's even worth doing that. But give them a chance. I will always go on about stuff that's still trapped on the Sega Saturn and stuff still trapped on the N64. I was so happy when they re-released Turok 1 and 2. And I can't wait until the day where I get to play Turok 3 and Rage Wars again, without having all these kind of consoles cluttering up the place or trying to do something or playing on PC without it glitching or whatever. So yeah, make them readily available. But John, I think Nintendo have made a slip up on this, because it is. I don't think the value for money is there.
No, I don't want to hear it, Bill. Nintendo don't make mistakes. They're perfect in every way.
I think.
Tell me why you're wrong.
In their infinite wisdom, if you remember, there was a time that they released their £20 subscription, and it didn't have the NES or Super Nintendo games, did it? It was just
a
subscription for online, and it was free for a while, wasn't it? And then they did it afterwards. I think this time they've gone, do you know what? We're gonna put it full whack, because trying to get someone to pay more for something once it comes out is more difficult. Whereas if we make it the price it should be and then keep adding value to it, then we don't need to adjust the price later. So I think they've already mentioned they're going to put in
like better value as time goes on, for sure.
Yeah. So at the moment it looks like a hard sell and it looks a bit of a rip-off for many. But I think they've done that so you get used to the price, and now they go, okay, fine. You don't think that's a good idea? Full GameCube library.
Yeah.
How is it worth it?
That would be nice.
Full Dreamcast library. Is that 50?
Don't tempt me with Dreamcast re-releases, Bill.
You know what I mean, though, because they've got Sega on board. They've got all that stuff from the Virtual Console. What if they turn it into like their Netflix subscription, but they're just taking a while to get all the licenses together to be able to do it? Then suddenly 50 quid is okay, but you've already bought into that price. They don't have to go 30. Oh, now we're going to make it £10 because we've added Dreamcast. Now we're going to add another £10 because we had a GameCube. Do you see what I mean?
Emily's. I'm going to read out Emily's comment. Folks spent 50 quid on Metroid this week. It's not my bag, so I pass on it. But £17 to have a year's access to old favourites of mine, I'll take it. I'm their target market this time. And that's the thing, you know, Nintendo don't target, or everyone all of the time. Emily says, I've waited more on Disney Plus anyway. Fanata is now just dreaming about the Switch Dreamcast controller. Crikey. Kisra's now dreaming for Dreamcast stuff as well. It's much more somehow gets loads of free Nokia stuff. Amazing. Dreamcast fan there as well. Awesome. Excellent. It was indeed the European anniversary yesterday for the Dreamcast. 22 years, I believe it was. Yeah. Conker's Bad Fur Day when? Yeah.
Yes. If you start chucking all that in and you've got used to the price, they don't have to keep coming up with new SKUs, and that can be real pain for an admin in a company.
Can I just point something out as well?
Go for it, mate.
Xbox Live used to be $39.99 for a year, and that didn't come with anything. That just let you go online.
Yeah.
That's it. No free games or nothing. And look how many, that literally brought online to the console masses.
Well, this is the other part. If they would have done this 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, people would have thought it was a bargain. But because Xbox have done Game Pass, and because PlayStation Online has got those free game giveaway things, like people are kind of like, it's not really worth it. But when you think about how much you actually get with it compared to even PlayStation, I think PlayStation is probably the worst deal now, isn't it?
Yeah, PS Plus has been a bit off the boil, but I think once that PS5 library gets to a decent point, then we'll see some decent offers. Once people have all got their PS5s eventually.
That kind of proves my point. They didn't release PlayStation 5 and go, do you know what? We haven't really got any offers at the moment, so we're going to make PlayStation Online 20 quid. And then when we start releasing things, we'll bump it up to 40 quid like you used to. They kept it at 40, and it's all been built into our subconscious to go, that's normal. Because Nintendo started at 20 and then it's now gone to 40, people are up in arms about it. But it's also because, like you say, on the Xbox 360, it was always 40. And they didn't give you anything else except for online play. Mm-hmm. Whereas now with things like Game Pass, where they give you, 200 odd games or 150 odd games in a package, it looks odd. But give it a couple of weeks, give it a couple of months, and let Nintendo add some more stuff to it. I reckon suddenly we'll go, yeah, that's normal, and then we'll be back to...
The crazy thing as well, though, is, we've gone from talking about paying £50 for a game that you can finish in 10 hours and we're perfectly happy with it, to paying £35 to have, loads of NES games, loads of SNES games, loads of N64 games, and loads of Mega Drive games, which is...
perception.
Which is, if you're starting from nothing, that is an insanely good value for money. Imagine if in 1997 someone had said to you, tell you what, for 35 quid, which in 1997 would be worth about tenner, I should point out as well, with our inflation, and you'd have this many games for that price. It's ridiculous. So yeah, you've talked me around. It's actually quite good value for money, Bill. I came into this thinking, what a rip-off. It's not bad when you think about it.
It's all perception and how it's been delivered, and it's because it started at 20 and they say, right, now you can have these free things, we'll give you extra 30. It looks like a rip-off. But if they would have come in and released all the N64, Mega Drive, NES and SNES games, along with online, cloud and that, and literally just launched it as that at 40, 50 quid, we probably would have gone, yeah, that's all right. It's all perception. That's how we see money these days. It's a bit obscured.